This is a display, everybody. This is an exhibit, temporary exhibit on the 6th Airborne Brigade, which was the British paratrooper unit that parachuted into Normandy on D-Day. And so there were about 7,000 of them. They'll correct us on the numbers. But these are representatives from a lot of these different groups. They're going to talk with us about what happened that day.
World War II historian who's going to come and talk to you. So
Hi, how are you?
I just go ahead and
All the way across the board here?
everybody.
Okay.
Just start.
We're all in.
All right, they're all in. So we're just going to start here on the right and work my way to the left. Is that the...
I don't
Okay.
think we'll be able to get all three of them at once. We might have to get really close. Yeah.
I got to stand in close to everybody? Is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
All right. How are you, gentlemen?
Great. How are you doing today?
Good, good. I'm JDK Winnikin. I'm a historian, World War II historian from the States. We're doing a live stream here on Twitch, an online platform. There's literally thousands of subscribers who are going to see this either now or we play replays of this over and over again. We've been live streaming here for the last couple of days, 8 hours or so a day. And what we're doing is just giving a sense to everybody of the history of this place and the history of, in this case, the British role in the D-Day invasion, and of course all of this with the airborne around the 6th Brigade. Wanted to come and talk to you guys. Okay. So we can literally go anywhere you want in terms of what we're talking about, but I think what the best place to start would be to talk about whatever you think. If you had people that were hearing about this for the first time, what would you want them to know about the contribution on D-Day of paratrooper units, and what would you want to emphasize? Now, whoever wants to talk first, I got to stand close to you because the echo in here. I want to make sure I pick you up on the mics. Yeah. So would any of you like to start and introduce yourselves to the world?
I could possibly start that
You
off.
can start that off. What's your name?
Mike Lusada.
Mike Lusada. Nice to meet you.
And,
Thanks for being here.
My father commanded at Northolt.
Okay.
1944.
Okay.
And their operation was they were taking all the aerial photographs. And for every 23 flights that they did over Calais, they did one over Normandy.
Oh, wow.
And that was using Spitfires and Mosquitoes.
Okay.
And a very, very interesting story.
I bet.
From 43.
And that was in the weeks and months leading up to the attack. Okay. How far in advance did they start taking reconnaissance photographs?
About 7 or 8 weeks.
7 or 8 weeks.
But so many other things were going on.
Right.
You know, we had people going in there taking samples of the sand, so that they knew what weight the tanks and the vehicles, etc., could take.
Wow.
And they were in there, dug out the sand, and back out again from a submarine.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Not heard that
amazing
before.
Stories.
That is an amazing story.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that they were doing a lot of missions up near Calais. Can you explain to our viewers why that was significant?
Yeah,
Right.
they were spoofs.
Right.
To make them believe and to try and keep the panzers away. Their big fear was the panzers.
Right.
That if they came onto the beach or
Right.
were anywhere near the beach.
Right.
And that actually worked because they just weren't quite sure which
Right.
way we were going to go.
Yeah, part of the larger Operation Fortitude, the big deception campaign that was that. So Fortitude South, I think that was part of that.
Yeah.
One part of it.
Rubber tanks and
massive enterprise.
aircraft and etc., which were never there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And you said your father commanded those recon
he
forces.
commanded on the photographic side of things.
Okay.
And was a very keen photographer. You know, even as an Air Commodore after he had retired.
Okay.
And so we have some fascinating stories from the Royal Air Force. From the Royal Air Force side of it. And these guys, of course, were the ones that would have dropped. And here's an example.
Wow. And you're in full gear here?
Yes, it's full
Is that
jump
correct?
kit for a
Let me step past you, sir.
Of course.
So.
This is full jump kit of a British paratrooper on the night of 5th of June 1944. British paratroopers were the first ones into Normandy, actually on the 5th of June, so just before midnight.
Right.
As you know, the main attack was by glider, but there was parachute actions elsewhere around that area. Basically to try and cut off the German advance once the invasion had started. As the same with the American guys, was to cut off all the bridges to stop the tanks that you mentioned getting to the main land forces coming in by sea.
Right.
So basically you've got your weapon, it's the main thing you need. Life preserver, parachute harness. Underneath all this, you've got your basic equipment, so you've got your full fighting order, so your webbing set, small pack, that's going to be 48 hours worth of ration, 24 hours worth of water, countless ammunition. I didn't know when it was actually going to get resupplied.
Right.
As an airborne division, you have to fight. You're going to be surrounded at some point.
Correct.
You've got to live out your pockets for as long as possible until you get resupplied, basically.
Right.
The heavy equipment like the jeeps, they would come in later in the day.
Right.
The main thing on Normandy was shock tactic, and that's why it works so well.
Right.
I don't know if you've been to Pegasus Bridge, but you see
I have
close
before.
them gliders get down.
They did.
It's
remarkable.
best flying of World War II in a lot of historians' point of view. It's
Remarkable. Now, just to give the viewers a sense, what's the weight of everything you're carrying?
about 30 kilos.
About 30 kilos. Okay, it's a lot.
That's
A lot of
with the
extra.
chute as well.
Right. Okay.
Obviously, once you landed, that would go, but
Okay.
the majority of it you're going to carry.
And if I remember correctly, was it 7,000 British troops, British paratroopers went in?
Close to that, not on the 6, but
No,
overall, yes.
okay.
Full division, so 10,000
Okay.
approximately.
Okay. Right. And achieved the objectives pretty quickly
Yeah,
on
very
that day.
quickly, yeah.
Yeah. On the eastern flank of that, we have a lot of viewers that are. This is an interactive one, so they're probably posting up maps and
Okay.
that type of thing. What would you want any viewers to know beyond what you just told me about the British contribution with paratroopers, the training involved? I mean, it was years of training for this.
It was years training. 6th Airborne Division were pretty new in 1944.
Yeah,
They would-
started in
wasn't
June of
formed-
40.
Well, no, 43, 6th Airborne Division was
Oh,
formed.
okay.
1st Airborne Division was the main British unit,
Okay.
formed in 1940 by Churchill.
Right.
6th Airborne came in 43 when they realised they needed to expand. So they had a mix around with some of the units that was in 1st Airborne to form 6, because you need guys with experience. But a lot of the guys going in on D-Day weren't experienced in combat at all. They was fresh troops.
Right.
Same with the land force on the British point of view. The guys going in on the first day, the first wave, a lot of them haven't seen any combat experience.
Quite a start.
Was that done for a reason? Possibly. I don't know.
Right.
I think it's good having people that don't actually know what is actually going to happen, maybe. They was trained for it, but they've not witnessed it before.
Right. Yeah.
It's
Yeah, hard to know.
psychological, I think.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
But, I think it's very much overlooked, the British part of D-Day. I think it gets overlooked.
Yeah, it gets lost in the larger
larger
story
picture.
usually. Yeah, and it's interesting because it's that eastern flank of the Normandy front that I wouldn't say necessarily goes all to plan, but it certainly went better in the eastern section than it did in
And the
the
majority
western
of the
section.
German forces were coming from that direction as
Right.
well. It's from Calais and that side.
Right,
Normandy,
right, to cut that
Normandy.
off.
It was quite a big thing if that hadn't been taken,
Right.
I think it could have been quite a different story.
Right, it would have been dodgy, yeah. One of the things we've been stressing is to our viewers that the outcome of that day wasn't foreordained, right? We're 75 years after the fact. There's plenty who assume I would have gone that way, but it certainly required that type of skill, that type of
As Mike was
dedication to
mentioning,
it.
a lot of pre-planning as well.
Yeah.
Decoy
Yeah.
divisions. A lot of hung on that, the weather.
Right.
It could have gone a lot different that day.
Right.
I think people forget D-Day didn't actually end on the night of the 6th of June. It was we were still going through Normandy into Europe in early 1945. They're
Right.
still using that as the main ports
Right.
and supplying the advance through Europe.
Right.
And I think it all factors on that first day, really.
Well, it does.
Yeah.
It does. 150,000 men coming across. You can't have them sitting in the channel for days and days on end. You have to get onto the beach, you have to hold it, and then you have to move it.
I mean, the preparation for D-Day started in 1940, really,
Right.
from the British point of view. From
Right.
the minute we pulled out of Dunkirk, the next thing was training to then go back. And that's the other thing. A lot of the guys who went in on D-Day had been at Dunkirk 4 or 5 years, or 4 years previously.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So you got a lot of experience as
Right.
well.
Right.
Must be quite a strange experience going back after
Yeah, it must have
being
been.
on the other end of it,
Right.
retreating in 1940.
Some motivation.
Yeah.
Yeah, significant motivation. And plus a year in there where the British are effectively fighting alone.
Yeah.
Right? The United States isn't in the war until December of 41. And
Obviously, we had a lot of Americans did come and serve in the Battle of Britain and
Sure.
Lend-Lease as well.
Right.
Would have been some big contribution
Oh, of
without
course.
the American
Of course.
contribution to it.
Of course.
Again, even on D-Day, you got all the vehicles all American made.
Right.
We didn't have anything like this at all.
Right.
Until 1946, 47, and Land Rover copied these.
Ah.
Up until that point, this was
That was it.
That was the
You
thing.
drove American Jeeps.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Fantastic. So how are you finding things going today? You have a lot of people coming by, talking with you?
A lot of interest.
I bet.
Yeah, a lot of veterans, families, veterans,
I bet.
people wanting to learn more about it.
Okay.
It's a good way of seeing it is actually coming talking to guys, looking at the kit.
Right.
Stuff
Right.
you can't see. A lot of the we work for the museum a lot of the time, behind glass cases, but to actually be able to pick it up and look at it.
Yeah, that was the appeal to us when we walked in and we took a look. So you got to go?
I can come back though.
You can come back? We'd love it if you would. Thank you. You have to go as well. Okay. Okay. Well, the American contingent has left. They'll be back.
Whistling.
What the whistle was.
Yeah, they'll be back. If they've been whistled over, we want to do that.
Briefing, I guess, for the parachute.
Yeah. So now, are you currently in are you currently in the British military?
I'm not. No, I'm a historian myself, so
Oh, okay.
I live in the store. So we're collectors. This is my vehicle.
Oh, wow.
Down this side, we're all private collectors,
Okay.
historians mainly.
Okay.
And we've been asked to come along to help support Airborne Assault Museum.
I can understand
which is
why.
based at Duxford.
Okay.
And that's basically the British museum for the Parachute Regiment of the Airborne Forces.
Okay.
From 1940 to current day, so we support the current regiment as well. We can see them outside.
Okay.
But we're working with those this week to
Okay.
just bring a bit of life to what museum exhibits they've got that's quite sterile.
Absolutely.
It's nice to bring life to it and
Yeah.
chat to different
Well,
people.
so I can tell you, I really enjoy seeing this all up front and seeing how it all fits together. What got you interested in this enough to become this much of a collector? Do you have a family connection to this?
Not to D-Day itself. I mean, both my grandfathers served during the war.
Okay.
But not in airborne.
Okay.
I do have two relatives that were in the airborne. One of them was actually killed in Sicily. And I have another relative who was a commando who was killed on D-Day itself.
Okay.
He was killed in 1944, 6th of June, going into Gold Beach,
Oh, okay.
part of the 47 Commando.
Okay.
So I think it is the old history of it and the family connections, not necessarily to this one operation, but overall picture.
Overall picture, sure.
Yeah.
Sure. And it's interesting. We've talked with a number of people, and we have a lot of viewers in the United States, and the American experience of the war is very different, right? I mean, just as profound in terms of loss of life and worry about family members, but it's a different experience from the British perspective when you were under bombs, when under threat of imminent invasion.
A lot closer. And
Yeah.
I think by D-Day that had changed quite a bit. Obviously,
Sure.
we got the air superiority in Normandy
Right.
before D-Day.
Right.
That again made a big difference to the landings. We did control the air, which
Okay.
would have been a lot different if we hadn't have done.
Right.
But like you say, it was an island struggling, and it got pretty close at times, I think.
Yeah.
Again,
Yeah.
from America, it was the food. It wasn't just the vehicles; it was the food.
Yeah.
Everything. Really.
Everything. Equipment, burlap, nails, twine, anything you could think
Steel.
of. Right.
Rations. it was-
Absolutely. Absolutely. How are we doing chat-wise?
We got some questions.
Got some
If you wanna get
questions.
some
Okay, this is
yeah.
interactive, so all the people that are watching are asking questions. So do you have questions for?
I do have some questions. I'm not just bored by what you're saying. I'm actually reading questions here.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Try my best.
Yeah.
There were some people asking what all would be in the kit. Like just one weapon? Was there a pistol? How much ammunition did they carry?
Again, it depends on the role of the soldier.
Right.
I'm a sergeant in the Royal Corps Signal, so my main role would be to operate that radio set over there.
Gotcha.
Obviously, because of the weight of that, you wouldn't jump with it yourself. So the only weapon I've got is this one. So by 1944, you wouldn't necessarily carry a pistol unless you was an officer, really.
Right.
This was your main. This is not actually an offensive weapon. It's more for personal protection.
Right.
Short range. As a signaller, your main task wouldn't be to be a fighting soldier. It'd be to operate the radios.
Operate the
communications.
radios.
As an airborne soldier, you're designed to fight as an infantry. If you really need to,
Right.
you can go into action. Ammunition-wise, you'd probably have 6 or 7 magazines, clips, as you
Clips.
guys call them, with 28 rounds of .38 ammunition in those.
Gotcha.
A couple of hand grenades. The rest of the kit you're looking at is your food mainly.
Right.
And basic hygiene equipment. So you've got a wash roll,
Okay.
spare socks, undershirt, stuff like that.
Gotcha.
So with the radio, so you
ask.
say you didn't carry the radio because it's big and heavy, and we'll get the camera on the radio in just a second. Did that drop off the same plane, or would that be like another plane that dropped it?
It depends really, but say some of the radio sets you could drop within what's called a leg bag. They've got one over there. You probably ought to see it later.
Okay.
You jump with that on your leg. As soon as your canopy is deployed, you could pull a quick release pin, and that would drop and hang on a 20-foot rope below you. For Normandy, a lot of them like that because if you're jumping at night, you don't know where the ground is.
Right.
I mean, we jumped at 500 feet, roughly.
Oh,
If you're at the front of the aircraft
Right.
on stick,
yeah.
the coat is slowing down and you're losing altitude. Some of them are jumping at near 300 feet.
Oh,
So you've not got much chance between the canopy opening and hitting the deck. By
Yeah.
having the leg bag on, when the rope goes slack, you've got an idea where the ground is. To put it in perspective, the Americans jumped at around 2,000 feet.
okay. Wow.
That's
Significant difference.
it really is.
A
Significant
friend of
difference.
mine, he's not D-Day related, but he jumped it on and he was Pathfinder.
Oh,
And from the minute he left the aircraft to the minute his feet went on the floor, he said it was about 8.5 seconds.
8.5 seconds from jump to landing.
Wow,
Wow.
that's not long at all.
not long at all.
Pretty heavy landing. But
Yeah, I would think.
he said when people are shooting at you, it's not a bad thing to be on the
Right,
that quick.
right. Yeah, you got to feel lucky to get out of the plane
Yeah.
at that altitude. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, what else?
Another sort of question: do you do this with a group of people, like people that collect or reenact or anything like that, or you just yourself?
A bit of both, really.
Bit of both?
Those are individuals that specialise, and then for events like this, we meet up. You tend to get to know people who's in the same interests. A lot of us chat, talk, work at the museum. We've got Facebook groups and things like that we interact with each other.
Okay.
You're always learning. You can never stop learning. And these different people have got different specialists. I myself like the weapons and the equipment, the uniform, and then Matt over there is interested in the vehicles, the radio sets. Everyone's got their own little interest that can then help everyone else to get it as right as we can, really. There's a lot of research involved, but
Yeah.
as a historian you'll find that's the fun part of it.
Yeah, it is. It is. Digging it out.
Never stop learning.
That's right. That's right. And you never know when you're going to learn something new that changes what you thought you already knew. Yeah.
Even this gear, I've been doing this for over 20 years now, and by wearing the equipment, it helps talk to people and pass that on. And I've been told by veterans, oh, we didn't do that, try this way, this is better. It's not a right or wrong way of doing it.
Right.
It's what is comfortable to you, and over the years you find what the best way is. And I guess that's what the guys back then were doing. There was experimenting. It was a new thing.
Right.
Parachuting in 1944 was
Yeah.
pretty 4-year-old at the most.
Yep.
Obviously, the Russians did it earlier and other people, but for Allied combat parachuting, I think it was 1944 it really came into its own.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really the
And
first
since
time you
then,
see it
it's
in
not
mass.
really- if you look at the kit the new guys are using, the leg bags, it's not actually changed a great deal since 1944, 42, and it's developed.
Right. Right. Wow.
Gotcha.
Fantastic.
So another one here. So you have a nice complete set of kit. What was the hardest thing for you to find as you're putting your kit together? I mean, you don't just go online and buy one complete kit and then it all shows up in the mail, right? You collect it over time.
It takes a lot of finding the stuff. I mean, the parachute harness here is probably the hardest thing to find.
Okay. Do you actually have a parachute right now?
Parachute on the back.
Oh, there you go on the back. There's the actual
There it
parachute.
is.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a Mark II X-type parachute harness. That's the mainstay parachute harness of the British Airborne
Yeah.
in 1944.
Okay.
Just to give you an idea of context, you're looking, if you can find one, £4,000 to £5,000 now for one of those.
Wow.
If you can find one.
If you can find one. That's
Wow.
a significant investment.
That is. That is.
I didn't pay that.
You didn't pay that. Okay. Okay.
Did you put a crowdfunding thing up or something, or?
Just, I think patience and just waiting
Yeah.
and collecting and being in the right place at the right time, really.
Gotcha.
Ian wants to know the name of the group that you're with.
This is our moderator.
Yeah.
Wants to know the name of the group you're with, and so we can post it.
Well, this weekend we're actually working for Airborne Assault Museum, which is based at Duxford.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah, for them. Okay.
All right.
Sounds good.
We have new friends.
All right. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much.
That's massive. So helpful. We'll have you guys step in.
Sure.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm
Robert.
JD. Robert.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Where are you from, Robert?
San Diego, California.
San Diego. Okay. And you are?
Jeremiah Kane,
Jeremiah Kane from?
Massachusetts.
Massachusetts.
USA.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm
We're gonna
JD.
act like we like each other here.
Right.
yeah.
I'm going to have to have you guys
Cram
speak.
it on an aircraft. Just pretend.
Right, so I'm going to stand close to both of you when you talk just because we can get you on the mic. I'm from Seattle, and these guys are from different places.
All over.
He's from all over. But I think you heard what we're doing. So there's people all around the world who are watching this live stream right now. And we're just trying to give them a sense of the importance of paratrooper operations on D-Day. But we would love it if you guys would introduce yourselves to them and how you ended up here, why you're actually here, what it is that you do, so we can get a sense of what's going on with you. So I'm going to go ahead and let you start. How'd you get?
My name's Robert. I'm a currently serving service member in the Army. I'm
Okay.
a paratrooper. I'm on jump status right now, and my command allowed me to come here to participate.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's nice. Where are you stationed right now?
My parent command's in Fort Bragg, North Carolina.
Okay.
I'm in San Diego, the remote location.
Oh, you're in San Diego. Okay. And you got that. How did you get that? Was it just like you entered in your name? Yeah, I want to go, or did they pick you?
So I also jump with an organization called Round Canopy Parachuting Team.
Okay.
And as a civilian, I go there and jump. And my command initially allowed me to take permissive TDY and go there and jump, so I could learn to be a better jump master. By jumping non-standard aircraft, being exposed to different TTPs, or different techniques, tactics, and procedures, different ways of doing things. It was a way to kind of develop me as a jump master to be better at what I do. And then I fell into the group and continued jumping with them. And then this opportunity presented itself, and I didn't want to turn this down.
Yeah, you look like you're having a blast.
Yeah,
It's
it's
just
fun.
kind of radiating off of you.
it's a good time.
That's cool. How long have you been doing this?
I've been a paratrooper for over 10 years, and I've been part of on the civilian side doing this for 3 or 4 years.
Okay, how many jumps do you have to your credit?
Over 80,
Over
82,
80.
83 maybe. something
In
like
combat
that.
as well?
No combat jumps.
No combat jumps. Okay. But you pretty much know all the ins and outs of all this.
I have a pretty good understanding of modern TTPs and
Okay.
the modern way that paratroopers perform their duties.
Okay.
And I have a decent understanding of how it was done 75 years ago.
Okay, that was gonna be my next question, is how much of that historical component that we're learning about here is still a part of your training? I mean, these guys were the first ones to really do this.
So the thing is, 75 years ago, this program was in its infancy.
Right.
These guys didn't have the institutional knowledge of, or their leaderships developed knowledge of, like, hey, this is how we do it, this is why we do it. It was more theoretical. There was very little operational knowledge that was built into their training program in the 1940s. And by the time D-Day happened, there were very few worldwide operational jumps. I think the Germans had done one in Crete, and then there was North Africa, there were jump operations.
Right.
But as far as combat jumps, there weren't very many.
Right.
And now, 75 years later, we enjoy the benefit of that. Things have been tried and tested and proven that, hey, this works, or the virtual development community changes things based on what didn't go well. And even the things that we take for granted now, like the way that we do resupply, or the way that we equip our forces, is based on decades of experience.
Right.
Those guys didn't have that.
Right. Right, yeah, no, that context matters. And we've been hearing that a lot with all these different people that we've been talking to about how, in many ways, the mold was made for so many of these logistical things and these tactics and even the equipment itself as well. So what role do you have? You've come over here for this. You said, is this to represent your unit historically over here, or is
No,
it
it's
just
just
to be
a
a part?
jump, just to be a part of this. I don't have any family ties to this.
Okay.
So it's just to be here as part of representing the airborne community at large.
Okay. So now, are you one of the ones to be scheduled to jump out of any of these planes?
I'm planning on jumping tomorrow into Normandy. We were going to jump today, but the weather unfortunately didn't work out.
Right, it seemed that way. Right. So you'll be jumping tomorrow. That's the plan.
Yes.
Okay. Well, we're actually going to be on the France side
getting on a train.
tomorrow. We're getting on a train early tomorrow morning.
Very cool.
And what's that? Yeah. Where would be a good place for us to watch if we were going to catch that?
So the city of Centerville, is the Sanerville. It is it's a little bit east of the city of Caen. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong.
Yeah, I think it's Caen, but we've been struggling with it too. Yeah.
I don't speak French, sorry.
Yeah, it's all right.
So Centerville is a little bit east of there. The drop zone is on the western side of the town.
Western side of the town.
The northwest corner of the town apparently there's a parking area and an observation area, with the drop zone being south and west of that.
Okay, I know where Centerville is,
Yeah.
so I know where that is.
So directly west of Centerville is where the drop zone is going to be.
Okay, fantastic. And how many are scheduled to jump?
I think a map's actually posted on Dax over Normandy's website.
Okay, well, that's good.
I understand there's several jumps that are going to happen there. Dax over Normandy has 220-ish, 220 plus people jumping, and then before that, I think either the Belgians or the French are going to jump, and then also an aircraft from 3 Para.
Okay.
I think.
Okay.
If I understand it right.
All right. Sounds good. Sounds good. All right. Well, thank you for that. I'm going to step past you so that I can kind
Just
of
shuffle it out.
just shuffling people out. By the way, though, I want to make sure if we can get him what we're streaming on, he can send that to his family so they can catch that video. They can either catch it live. We're going to be replaying it later. So fantastic. All right, sir. Thank you for your patience. Appreciate it. Are you active duty as well?
No, I'm not. I'm long past active duty.
Okay.
I served in active duty in the late 80s through the 90s. Good portion of my time was as a paratrooper.
Okay.
And my whole being here started a process probably about closer to 2 years ago when somebody just a reference on a Facebook page of D-Day Drop, and they're looking for people that would be interested in honoring the veterans of the World War II, its 75th anniversary, and by way of parachuting in Normandy. And when I realized I started doing it and going through the qualification process, I started it in just what a great way, because it made me relive my youth a little bit,
Right,
my 20s. But and here I am today to do it, and I just can't wait.
Oh, I bet. So what role are you having here?
I'm currently just serving as a jump master and a jumper of an aircraft going into Normandy. Right now the weather's questionable, and we're hopeful for that, but that's just part of being airborne. In the years that I did it, it just happens. So
right. Well, and there's a reason why 75 years ago it was dodgy.
Was exactly the same around this time.
Right. Exactly.
I am scheduled to do 2 other jumps in Normandy. So at least, hopefully, if this one doesn't go, I'll get the opportunity to jump in there.
What an amazing opportunity for you. That's fantastic. So you were trained, so were you in the U.S. Army?
Right.
And were you stationed in Europe? Because my guess would be that...
I was stationed in Germany, but not as a paratrooper.
Okay.
So I did serve in Germany for 3 years.
Okay. So when you were doing training and paratroop training and operations were being sort of directed, where was the main area of focus where if you were going to be used, it most likely would have happened? Would it have been in Europe against the Soviets?
Well, yeah, my early career was with the Cold War going on and stuff. That was one of the focus. But basically, Fort Bragg and the doctrine is exactly the same today. To be ready to deploy anywhere in the world in a short notice and perform combat operations anywhere in the world. So there was really no major area of focus. Obviously, just watch the news and hotspots, and that's where the training might lead the commanders to focus on that type of thing.
Right.
Not necessarily, just basically anywhere.
Okay.
You were the America's 911.
Right. Right. Makes sense. Now, how many jumps did you make?
I have on active duty had about 90 plus jumps. I've made 7 since in the last 2 years. Preparing for this. My last active duty jump was in 1998.
Okay.
I was an instructor at the Army Airborne School.
Okay. All right. Very good. So when you were younger, was the idea of becoming a paratrooper, was that tied in really closely with what we're seeing here? Was that a story you knew from a young age?
Yeah. I mean, when I was 18 years old in high school, all I wanted to do was serve in the United States military, and one of the main ones was to try to be an elite, and I wanted to be a paratrooper, and I enlisted, and that's what I did.
That's what you did.
And now, going to Normandy, I served in the units that participated in this 2nd 504, 325, 507. So it's all the history and lineage, and I heard all the names: St. Miracle-Ease, Normandy, Utah, Omaha. All these operations and areas that they operated in.
Yeah.
So it was just, it's familiar to me in that sense, but it's also just an honor and to not forget the guys that went before us, so that we can continue to, the freedoms we have today.
Absolutely. And from your perspective as a paratrooper, one of the things we're going to be talking about when we're over there in Normandy is the difficulty of what they were being asked to do, and certainly under massive combat operations like that. And a lot of people know the general story that a lot of the troops got spread out, that it was very difficult circumstances that they jumped into, a lot of ad hoc decision making in terms of, kind of guys from different units having to bind together. What would you want people to know from a paratrooper's point of view that would be helpful?
That in training that I did in the early 80s and the 90s was similar to what they experienced and did, was to train, and once you can have all the planning in the world, but once the actual combat starts, everything can go to crap, and it did for them.
Yeah.
And why they were successful, why I think we still would be today, because we were trained to take action in absence of orders, and that's exactly what the paratroopers in World War II did. They didn't have command, their command structure was all, they got together and they just went and engaged the enemy and disrupted the operations. They knew the mission, the basic mission. They were off target, a lot of them, but they just went and acted in absence of the command, and that was the issue with the Germans, because they didn't act that way because their structure wasn't that way. And to this day, right now, and at least from my training, make a decision and take make orders in the absence of commands. is
Right.
What we do. Move,
Make
step
orders
up.
in absence of command. Yeah, that's
You know.
that's great because everybody would have known the mission: keep German armor away from the beaches.
And
so,
know your small mission, but if you know the next larger, and just act on it and do what you can to help accomplish that. And that's what they did.
Right.
And we were training that in 1982 through 1997, basically the same way.
was it training that was similar, not just from the jump night itself, but also from the subsequent action that those units were involved in, fighting in the hedgerows and that kind of close quarters
Yeah,
fighting?
absolutely. Or depending on what type of terrain you're fighting on, and learn the obstacles that you're going to have to overcome with that, and what the difficulties in, and how you can go about getting around that.
Right.
And just engage the enemy. Don't sit and wait for somebody to tell you to do something in the absence.
Just keep
do it.
moving. Just keep
going
moving.
and move.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Do we have any questions that have rolled in?
Right now, we're almost to the end of the battery on the camera here.
Oh, okay.
So we're working that issue.
So we're working that issue.
Yes.
Okay. So should I keep going, or can we release our guest?
I think we're going to have to shut down the camera soon. So.
Okay. Well, then this seems like a good opportunity to thank you. First of all, thank you for your service.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
And thank you for taking the time to talk with us. I know you've got a bunch of things here that you're really excited about, and I know you got to be focused on jumping out over Normandy. So thank you so much for taking the
Thank
time
you.
to talk to people
Appreciate
around the world.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much.
All right, so the camera should be back on right now.
Okay.
And we're going to be walking a little bit here. Chat, I'm on the camera currently. And then we're going to follow JDK and DC3 Girl back to another exhibit. Saber has gone off for a quick break. And y'all are going to come with me. That's just is what it is. So we're just going to walk back to the Paratrooper exhibit that they have in the back, because they had some amazing maps that we did not want to miss. So let me pop back into Twitch chat. Give me a status check. Make sure everything's like 5x5. There, I'm connected. How are we doing, chat?
Welcome back, everyone.
Yeah, here we are.
And if anybody's joining us today who wasn't here yesterday, this is the Air and Space building here at the International War Museum, and it is pretty much a history of British aviation. And so there's all British aircraft in here, including some amazing stuff. Watch out for the ropes
Yeah,
there.
I gotcha.
Right. This big beast here is a Sunderland flying boat that DC3 Girl is standing in front of, and that gives you an idea of the size on the basis of where she's standing. Not quite the Spruce Goose, but it's kind of like a mini.
But you'll have to do it.
Right. Gives you an idea of how big that is. Long distance reconnaissance, sub hunter, search and rescue. It could do a little bit of everything. Yeah, I didn't even look at the engines on this side. All right, yeah, there's plenty to look at, isn't there? As we're walking down sort of a long corridor here. Oh yeah, the Swordfish biplane. This is the one that could get torn up by bullet after bullet after bullet. Had the nickname the string bag, but really effective naval fighter. Actually a naval torpedo bomber. Did quite well. All right, we're going to move around the display here. Underneath the Lancaster heavy bomber. All right.
And now we start with the right behind you, careful.
All right, if you turn around behind you here, this is the beginning of the display. So there's a small museum built inside this wing of the museum called the Museum of the Parachute Regiment and Airborne Forces. And it's got a lot of information. The Parachute Regiment, one of the guys earlier was saying that it started relatively early. In June of 1940, as France was falling, Winston Churchill, by directive, ordered the creation of a airborne program that the British Army would develop. And around the same time, the United States would develop their own. Of course, they wouldn't really build on it until they entered the war in 1941. So this was all relatively new. So by the time these guys are jumping on D-Day, they've only really existed for 4 years, right, as a unit, right, as a concept. So now they had to parachute in with just the equipment that they could hold. right? We saw it from our British visitor we were talking with before. Your defensive weapon, your rations, anything you could carry with you for a short period of time. And as he said, if you're a paratrooper, you expect to be surrounded at any moment. And frankly, you might not be doing your job if you aren't, right? And their job was to parachute behind the lines, seize a target that had been deemed to be important to keep or to take from an enemy, and hold it long enough for reinforcements to arrive. Okay? And so what this exhibit is sort of shows us how these airborne units were developed, how they operated, and what equipment they had. Anything like this had to be dropped in in other parachutes, right? And you could not necessarily count on having that. And some of these troops came down in gliders that were towed by planes like C-47s, and they came popping in, and as you're seeing on the camera right there, the nose would open up, right, and those guys would step out. That's them being loaded into a glider in North Africa in 1942, so D-Day was not the first time these guys had seen action, but it was the first time en masse that something like this had been attempted from the Allied side. Okay, so Jeeps, equipment of all kinds, guns, resupply, all had to be done by air. Right? So this kind of gives you an idea here. And then inside, what we're really interested in here, even though all of this is interesting, are a couple of really amazing artifacts that exist from the D-Day operation. And as you would expect, they're a little crowded. So we're going to have to work our way through to the other side here. How are we doing on lighting? I suppose might be.
It's okay.
Seems to be okay. All right.
And DC, you're going to need to tell me if we have problems with signal. I can't monitor the signal right now. Thanks.
There appears to be a presentation happening around one of these artifacts we want to look at. It looks like by either an enthusiast or an active duty. So maybe we'll sneak by. Here's all the various types of equipment. Notice that, stand right here. Right. All the various type of equipment you can see that they used. All of it almost stuff that you would be able to carry. Roughly portable. That does not mean, however, it was light, because we were picked up some of these things, and when you're having to move your own body weight plus 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 pounds of extra equipment, you have no idea what it might be. But all of these taken together, they can either carry themselves or would be dropped alongside them, that they then would have to hunt on the ground, pick up, right, and then take with them into combat operations. So there's a good amount of stuff here. Right? I wouldn't even know where to start on all of that.
Yeah, because we have the maps to get to.
Yeah,
we have the maps to get to.
Saber at the maps.
Oh, we're meeting the maps.
Yeah, so let's keep going around this
And
way.
I think you're right. I think we have someone doing the reenactment here. So.
Yeah, we're having to work our way carefully through crowds here, chat, without disturbing anybody else's experience. Yeah, go to this side here. Excuse us. No. Oh yeah, we can take a look at this one.
This is pretty amazing. So we talked about the gliders.
Oh yeah, the front end of the glider.
That's the front end of.
Front end of one of the gliders that would be towed in behind a C-47. Right? And you can see here the photo here. Right? And then this whole mechanism would pop up and kind of flip up the nose, and then they would be able to pop out of it, the Horsa glider. Now, I was talking about this a little bit earlier, but the Germans, in preparation for D-Day, knew the gliders were probably going to be used by paratroop units. And so what they did was, knowing the gliders were going to need fields to land in, found open fields all over Normandy, and the ones that they could, they flooded, right? And because, of course, if they landed in that, then the soldiers would drown, the aircraft would drop. But they also put in gigantic twisted metal stakes, right? They're looking like drill bits, gigantic drill bits, many, many feet tall. And they got the nickname Rommel's asparagus, named after Erwin Rommel, one of the field marshals defending Normandy's beaches. And their role, they would put them at all these intervals all over these open fields. And their job in the dark was, when gliders were coming in, they would hit these obstructions and tear the glider apart. And usually cause a whole lot of carnage inside those gliders. So that was what these guys were flying into. And it's worth remembering, they were flying in these in the dark, right? That's the thing. And so we'll move over this way. Oh, we have an open shot at the artifact here. Okay, for our purposes here, Chad, these are two pieces that are of enormous interest. These are the actual three-dimensional preparation maps that British airborne units learned on to see where they were going to jump and what obstacles were in the way. And it might be tough to see, hopefully not, but these are topographical, and everything has been put in great detail. The shape of the buildings, the roadways, the forested areas, the open fields, so much detail, all taken from reconnaissance photographs in the weeks and months leading up to the invasion. These were all painstakingly recreated to scale so that all of these soldiers could memorize their own sections of maps, that memorize the section where they were supposed to drop, memorize where they were supposed to go, actually they would learn things as minute as there's a rock wall here that you need to find and then hop over it, or there's a barn over here that you need to go past to and then turn left and head east. There's a creek here, this type of thing. Because they wanted to give these soldiers as much detail as possible, because they're going to be landing under fire, they were going to be landing in the dark, they were going to have to be able to spot things as best they could with whatever light was available without hopefully revealing themselves too early, because of course their mission was to take their objectives by surprise before the Germans could respond. So these maps, and to kind of give a sense of this map on its side is easily 10 feet tall. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, go stand next to it.
All right, I'll go stand next to it, all right? So I'm 6 feet tall, 6'1", so at least that, right? So as one of the paratrooper guys we were just talking to told us, you couldn't just do this quickly. You had to spend a lot of time preparing everything. And so those aerial reconnaissance photos taken by reconnaissance fighters like Spitfires and others took these photos, developed them, they made tons of them, and then developed them into these maps, right? And here, as you can see, is the main landing zone for one of the subunits of the 6th Airborne Group. Okay? So that's one, the original briefing board, Normandy for Overlord. And then, right, there's 3 different ones, right? Now to make sure, actually that's, we showed this yesterday, or at least we took a look at this yesterday, but there's a map right here, Das, that gives an idea. It's a little bit of a glare.
Yeah, right? Shadow, yeah, we got it.
Yeah, by shadow, okay.
Yeah.
As you can see there, guys, those that's a map of the landing area. And those grayish blue arrows in the middle to designate the invasion force. Okay, so those are the ships coming across, bringing the troops that are going to land on the beaches. On either side, there's some dark blue arrows, and the dark blue arrows on the right are the 6th Airborne Division. That's the British paratroopers landing in their zone, closer to Caen. And then on the left side, those 2 arrows are the 101st and 82nd Airborne Divisions from the United States, landing behind Omaha and Utah beaches. And their job was to seize these crossroads towns. Names are on there: St. Lo, Bayou, okay, Carentan, and others. And these were crossroad points where a lot of roads came in from the beaches and then from the interior of Normandy. And these towns were considered vital for these airborne units to either seize or cut the bridges from the direction of the south to prevent German tanks from coming up and getting to the beaches and firing down on the troops coming onto the beaches. As we heard one of our British guests earlier say, the big concern was the panzers, right? You did not want those tanks to get to the beach. And so their job was to cut those things off. The British achieved their objectives actually within minutes. They came in early on, 6 gliders, had to grab 1 primary bridge across the Orne River, and they landed 5 of the 6 gliders literally within yards of it and jumped out, and in 15 minutes had seized the bridge, right? Everything else went a little bit more not according to plan. But as we heard from from one of our paratrooper guests not long ago, you expect that. When you're a paratrooper, you expect a plan not to go to plan, and you have to adjust, and you have to take action in the absence of orders. I loved that phrase that he used, taking action in the absence of orders. So these guys had all been taught how to do that. They all knew what their objectives were, and so even if they had to join up with guys that they didn't know, they all knew their objectives, and in the end, that's what made them successful. So the British jumped in about 6,000, 7,000 troops, at least early on the 6th, and they were enormously successful. The Americans, with about 13,000 troops, ran into more trouble behind the beaches, but they all did their job well enough that they actually achieved their objective. German tanks did not get to the beach, and that gave the invading armies, the armies landing on the beaches, the opportunity to adjust from their own losses, particularly at places like Omaha and elsewhere, and find success, break through the Atlantic Wall defenses, and establish a beachhead. So these maps, this one here, and there's one over here as well, are from that day.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's really cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah. I'm just amazed by the detail.
Yeah, y'all, there are definitely a lot of museum guests here today. We don't ask them to shut down the museum for us or anything like this. It's not that sort of filming, so
right,
this is actually kind of
right.
cool.
And so we're trying not to push in front of other people.
Exactly.
We don't want to be those people. So we
when
can
see the exhibit
cut
open
through
up,
here.
we'll jump in, and when
Excuse
it's
us,
got other
gentlemen.
people in front,
Excuse
we
us.
sort of clear out for them. So I
As
think
I just-
Saber wants the camera back.
As I just jumped right in front of you. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. So, okay. It's a little crowded in here. The other
Right behind you.
Yeah, the other map is here. It's hard to tell, and we have some guests looking at it right now. But this is a briefing board, a smaller version, a smaller objective map. And get a good look here in just a minute. Oh, you're fine. You're fine. Take your time. Thank you. We didn't want to rush you. And this is for the assault on Pegasus Bridge, the bridge objective I just mentioned. Right? So that's a big scale one, the one we saw before, the big landing zones. This one is for a specific objective. Oh, and you can hear them talking.
It lights up different things over time too, so like it highlights things.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Right, and look at the scale on this, Chad. It's amazing. Not only has it all been mapped from the air, but it's three-dimensional. So you have three-dimensional, almost like, they remind me of my dad's railroad sets, where you put all those things together, and you have the trees, copses of trees, you have rivers, you have hedgerow breaks, and of course you have the River Orna running right through the section. And you can see the glider zones, landing zone, LZ stands for landing zone. So LZX, LZY, there's some up to the north. And they even have the little gliders in there to scale, to give you a sense of size. Then the Pegasus Bridge is on the left-hand side on the Canal de Caen. Okay? That was a primary area, one of those bridges they wanted to prevent the Germans from being able to use to reinforce, to bring armor up towards the beaches. In this case, the British controlled beaches, and that would be Gold, Juno, and Sword. Juno was Canadian units under British command invading. But the British airborne forces also had a larger role to play rather than just securing the beaches. If the Germans were going to reinforce that section of Normandy, they were going to come from the east and the north, up near Calais. So these bridges absolutely had to be cut if you wanted to keep the majority of where German forces were from getting to the beaches. Because remember, they're not just trying to win the day. They're trying to win the day enough that they have enough room and enough logistical advantage to prevent these reinforcements coming down in the coming days. Right, because the Germans were going to bring their armor down on D-Day +1, D-Day +2, D-Day +10. And if the Allies didn't want to get pushed right off the beach again, these areas had to be cut. Right? So that artery was absolutely vital for British forces to grab for the survival of the entire beachhead. Right? That's why
I want you to share this picture because it's amazing to show what the devastation of this bridge, the before and after.
Oh, okay, that's in Arnhem.
Yeah,
that's
right,
later.
But just to give people an idea of what it looks like. I mean,
Oh, okay.
most of us don't think that something can go from this to that.
Okay. Yeah, this is a before and after photo of the battle at Arnhem Bridge in September of 1944. This is a few months after D-Day, as part of a larger operation where the British were trying to lead the way early into Germany to cross the Rhine River. And they dropped in paratroopers to seize these bridges, the bridges at Arnhem, right? And then prevent the Germans from blowing them up, right, to get them into Germany, because that was the idea, is they wanted to grab these so they could bring up British and American armor and cross into Germany. But the destruction, as you can see, is pretty extensive, right? Because as soon as paratroops land in a zone, an enemy knows there's a major objective underway. and they want to deny these paratroopers from holding it, and so they send in everything they've got: heavy artillery, tanks. If they can bring airplanes into bear, they can. And what ends up happening is, regardless of the objective, if it's held onto, the town around it gets destroyed, gets flattened. Right.
So Kadovi says that's where my grandfather fought, and then he said took shrapnel to the chest on the second day.
Okay, at Arnhem.
Pretty amazing. Yeah,
Right.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Right. And what's so upsetting about the Arnhem battles is that they grabbed the bridge, but they had to abandon the operation, right? Because they just didn't have enough reinforcement.
And somebody says, I remember this from Call of Duty, which I don't understand what that means.
Call of
but
Duty, the video game.
It's a video game.
That's what I thought it was.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we really wanted to make sure we showed you both of those, since this is really about D-Day and that operation, just the meticulous planning that it took, down to the point where all of these guys were memorizing where individual fields and walls and barn houses were and canals, what all these things look like. So when they landed, they wouldn't just be turning around, looking around, going, where am I and what direction do I need to go in, right? They needed to be able to identify visually where they were, right? And that's how they did it.
Are these the D-Day maps? Are there other maps over here we should see? Or
These are other ones as well. Let's take a look. These are a little bit later, but it's the same idea. This is from the Rhine crossing, which finally led Allies into Germany, Operation Varsity. Right, so the 6th British Airborne Division was a part of this. And you have the same setup here. Right? Once again, everything broken down the way you would have seen it on photographs. And north was actually this way. So as you can see, LZ is for landing zone, right? And then they were given different letter codings after that, right? So LZP, LZR, LZU, LZO, right? DZ is drop zone, okay? So those were for paratroopers, so DZB and DZA up top. LZ would be for gliders, right? And it's actually interesting. In the case of DZA up there, you can see why, just from basis of topography, not a big space. So rather than you need a lot of open spaces for gliders. So a lot of those landing zones are in the southwest of this map. Right? But this is the Rhine crossing. This was the attempt to grab the far side of the Rhine River, in Germany, so that you could prevent the Germans from blowing up the bridges over the Rhine, so you could bring in tanks and the rest of the army. That was the job of paratroopers, was to go prepare the way for land forces, armor, infantry, everyone else. That was their job.
Yeah.
And it's amazing because essentially they're asked to drop in, seize a place, get attacked, be immediately outnumbered, immediately outgunned, right? And yet still hold on to these places as best they can, right? I mean, they are literally asked to do a little bit of everything. And that's why there is so much emphasis put on them around the commemoration of D-Day, because without them doing their job, the Germans could have brought up heavy armor to the beaches and the outcome could have been a lot different, right? And in my book, that's exactly what happens, right? And for those of you wondering what I'm talking about, I wrote a novel called Crello's Inferno, which is based around the premise that D-Day failed because the Germans figured out what was going to happen and actually had those crossroad towns already occupied with more armor than the Allies thought they had, and that armor was able to come to the beaches and effectively prevent a beachhead from being established. And my book takes place about 2 years after that, and when you get a chance to read it, you'll see a failure at D-Day by the Allies would have led to a very, very different outcome to the end of the Second World War. Even though Nazi Germany still would have lost, the world would have looked a lot different because the Soviets would have had to occupy most of Europe to win the war. And there's so many things we wouldn't know. Allied forces, because of D-Day, were able to capture millions of documents about what had happened in occupied Europe, how the Nazis came to power, how they operated. We found out about the Holocaust because of that. They were able to capture experts in a number of different important areas, including, I know you guys are really interested, including those people like, Wernher von Braun, who helped, small things like building NASA and putting men on the moon. All those things would not have happened without these guys landing and succeeding in not only seizing the beachhead, but then also cutting off any opportunity for the Germans to reinforce it from any direction. That was their job, in order to give the Allies time to land tanks and build airfields in Normandy. And that took quite some time, right? Those of you who are familiar with the history know the Battle for Normandy took almost another 2 months to work through to create enough of a beachhead and enough of a control zone that they could bring in enough armor and enough infantry to break out and to liberate the rest of France. So that's why we care about this stuff so much, right? So that ties it together.
I got one more cool map I got to show. Y'all asked the question.
Okay,
One more cool map.
So
Okay.
we were just asked if we could have a link to the book. To the book. So let them know to go to your website.
Okay.
So and then sign up. And we'll
Thank you. Yeah, the book is in the process of being published. I'm looking for a publisher. That's one of the reasons why I'm doing a lot of publicity for it. If you go to my website, JDK Wyneken, that's JDKWYNEKEN, we'll post it up. Yeah, exclamation point JDK. You can go take a look and you can enter. You just go ahead and enter in an email, and you'll find out every step of the way when there's something new going on with the book. You'll hear about it, and so far it's getting a lot of positive love from you guys, which I really appreciate. You can go there and read the prologue. You can see that, and then in the weeks and months ahead, once we get back from this crazy fun trip, I'll be putting up more information about what it's about, so you'll get a chance to look at it then. So the best thing you can do to help me with that is to go to my site and then click on my social media links, like those pages if you like what you see, of course, and that helps.
Like it no matter what.
Right, like it no matter what, and that will help raise the profile a bit. So when publishers and agents are taking a look at what I'm doing, they'll go, oh wow, yeah, lots of people are interested. That only helps me. So if you guys want to help me out with that,
Eon says, do the subscribe now thingy at the bottom.
do the
Thanks, Eon.
subscribe now
Subscribe
thing.
now. It like blinks at the
Subscribe
bottom.
now
Like-
thingy. Right.
All right. So what else over here do we want to catch? I mean, I really wanted to catch the original maps because the facts that they're
Those are the original maps. What we should do is we should point out the parachute dog. Yeah.
I have to go check out the parachute dog, Chet.
And here at W. I think that's really its name. I'm not just saying that.
There's also, it's kind of cool, they also have a section in here for parachuting brigades from British Commonwealth countries, right? Countries that were once part of the empire, but also contributed their own. So Australia, India, New Zealand, and others. That, of course, during the Second World War, were fighting all over the world, right? The British weren't just fighting in Europe. Their forces were also fighting in the Far East, in the Pacific, against the Japanese. And the Japanese seized a number of British possessions at the beginning of the war, and the British and the Americans worked together to seize those back. Okay, so heading over this way, DC-3 girl lost her mind when we saw this the other day.
It's Bear Dog.
It's a parachute dog, right? And dogs parachuted as well. They were known as paradogs. Trained to parachute alongside the troops and to do guard, mine detecting, and patrol duties. I mean, and all those of you who own dogs know that dogs are kind of a natural early warning system, right? You find out something's around long before you ever know it's actually there, right? And they actually had their own version of the Victoria Cross, which is the highest commendation in Britain, called the PDSA Dickin Medal. And I don't know if there is one. There is one.
It's got one right on him.
It's got one right on him. So I have no idea what kind of dog that is. And before you say stuffed, everybody,
not a raccoon dog.
what was it when it was like before you say stuffed? Because you know somebody's going to say that.
Somebody is going to say
Yeah.
stuffed. And then the pair dummy.
Oh yeah, and then the paradummy up here, up above it. Your DOS up here, they used to drop a bunch of these dummy parachutes up here. And they were dropped away from the intended drop zone to create a diversion, right, to give a sense of what was going on. A lot of them were filled with explosives, right, so that when they were hit, they would explode, and it sounds like they were firing rifles. Good stuff. And there's a whole list of operations down below the camera shot. It gives you an idea. It's maybe about 3 feet tall.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe 3 feet tall.
I love chat. Somebody said trained very well. He hasn't barked yet.
We're gonna stay.
That's funny. Yeah, stay forever. I have no idea though what kind of dog that was at one point. So interesting. I'm looking around, Chad, as you're looking at this for anything else that might be of interest.
Wait, Vanguard 16 says they still do this.
Parachute dogs.
Parachute
Yeah,
dogs?
yeah, they train them.
Stop it.
They'll jump with them.
Did you?
You do in Sweden still?
The packs couldn't take it.
do you mind
okay.
if we throw it on camera really quickly?
Yeah, can we put you on camera?
Thank you. Appreciate
okay?
that. So,
Yeah.
So now we started putting them in boxes instead.
Oh, in Sweden, you're talking about. In Sweden.
So then they were safe going to. I bet that's less traumatic for them too.
Yeah, it is. Then they know what's going to happen when they see the boxes. And they don't like it.
That's probably worse than going to the vet. No,
Right.
My dog gets scared when he has to get in the crate because he knows that means vet. I can't imagine if that meant jumping out of a plane.
It's better for the dogs because
It doesn't hurt their backs, right? It won't hurt them, right?
yeah, their backs will break.
Right.
And then what do they do? I mean, what do they do?
They hunt the bad guys.
They hunt the bad
Do
guys.
they? And how do they do that? Somebody just asked how they hunt mines.
Yeah.
They teach them to smell.
Yeah. So they have the nose, the ears, and they can even pick up things in the wind. It's amazing. It's amazing what they can do.
Wow, that is
So
really amazing.
is there a standard assignment, like one dog for each unit, one dog for every? No, just whenever they're needed, they're brought in. Okay.
You give them a dog handler and a dog.
Okay.
And hopefully the platoon commander knows how to use the dog.
Right. Okay. Okay. So depending on the mission, you might get one, other ones you might not. Okay. Oh, interesting.
So now, are you a paratrooper?
Yeah.
You are currently with this.
No.
No, you were.
I used to be.
Used to be. Okay. In Sweden.
Yeah.
Fantastic. For how long?
9 years.
9 years. 9 years. And you're here for the commemoration? Are you actively involved in the events that are going on?
No, I'm here for the commemoration.
Oh, for the commemoration.
We're jumping in France tomorrow.
Okay, so you're jumping.
very
You're one of the
nice.
people jumping.
Yeah.
Wow. How excited are you?
A bit.
A bit? Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine.
It'll be fun.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. We're doing a live stream on Twitch, an online platform, and there's people from all over the world watching this. So we have people, and they're all kind of commenting and chatting and that type of thing. So we might get some. If there are any questions, throw them in as we go. So how
Do I
many?
get paid for this?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes.
We don't get
We
paid.
don't. Yeah. So how many paratroopers from Sweden are jumping tomorrow?
It's about 30.
About 30.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow, that's fantastic.
And so I'm reading comments from the people that are watching us right now, and I've had several that wanted me to just tell you thank you for your service.
Thank you very
It's-
much.
Yeah,
appreciate that.
wonderful.
I think it's an honor to do this commemoration for the people who did this for real.
Yeah.
75 years ago.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. It's probably one of the last times we'll get to do that.
Yeah.
So that's
It's a privilege.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So 30, that's amazing. So how many people total are jumping tomorrow? Do you know the exact number? No. A lot. A lot.
There will
So
be a lot of parachutes in the sky, I hope.
yeah, I hope. Yeah, we're actually going over to France tomorrow morning, or hopefully we'll be there in time to watch
great.
watch some of the jumps. It'll be fun. How were you selected to be one of the people to jump? Was it something you applied for? Was it?
I'm the chairman.
Oh,
Well, on that note,
wow.
I didn't have to apply.
You didn't have to. Fantastic. Fantastic.
I'm going to go ahead and give him. I think we're trying to move on, but I'm going to give this to you because if you go here, you can watch this fine little interview and what we're doing over the next few days. So we will be actually broadcasting. So just go to that link. It's really self-explanatory for those of us that don't really understand computers like me.
I'll always be selling
go to that
chat.
link and open
Plus
it up,
one viewer.
and you'll be able to watch the interviews.
Work myself.
Watch yourself. You'll be able to watch
yourself.
yourself.
Right,
Great.
right.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we
That's
may
just a
see you
win.
again. We're going to
Thank
be on the
you.
Normandy side over at the airport too. So,
Thanks.
yeah, thank you, and thanks for that. That was fantastic to learn about. So, thank you so much. All right. Wow. Never know who you're going to run into in a museum.
Suddenly get interviewed.
Suddenly get interviewed. Yeah, he jumped right on. Okay. So,
All right, what's next?
we're almost at the end of the exhibit actually.
Okay.
And so maybe what you can get a sense of here is that along this wall here, this big red wall, there's the list of battle honors. It's kind of tough with the glare maybe to see everything, but this is a list of all the awards and the honors that this unit, the 6th Armored Division, has gotten over the years. And you'll notice it starts out with Northwest Europe in 1942, comes down to D-Day, the Normandy landings are right here. More Arnhem, which we talked about before, Greece, and then it goes into the 1980s, Falklands, and then, of course, in the Iraq War in 2003. British forces were responsible for seizing al-Basra, the main city in southern Iraq, and did so pretty rapidly, and they used the 6th Airborne Division. And as you guys heard our previous guys talking about, they learned those tactics from the experiences of troopers in World War II who had absolutely nothing to operate from in terms of precedent. These guys all subsequently had their lessons to learn from and to build on. So this is a list of all of the awards that they've gained over time. So this is a very, very esteemed unit in the British military, one of the most esteemed units and one of the most decorated in the British military. And if you know anything about British history, you know that's a very big statement to make, because Britain has a very, very long, distinguished military history and has many, many honored units. And this is one that was only created in 1940.